In this podcast, I sit down and talk to a friend of mine, Tyler. I met him in 2021 after I taught a class in Florida. He came to the class and we had some conversations thereafter, and he was assigned to an interdiction team or a part time interdiction team. Shortly after my class, he got involved in I guess at this point, a world renowned officer involved shooting.
Bullets fly when a pair of Florida deputies are suddenly ambushed. It all started with a traffic stop. Deputy Tyler Thoman talking to a woman while another person rests against the trunk of the sedan. A second deputy, Brian Potters, approaches the vehicle and inside sees a third adult and a baby, and also a dog in the back seat. He makes small talk about his own kids and asks the adult to get out of the vehicle.
He wants to talk to you out here. Is that all you're? Yeah. I'll watch it for you. He's all right. I got babies. Oh, you got a dog too? Hell. I'll make sure they're all right. I got babies too, man.
That's when the car door opens and all hell breaks loose. More than 61 bullets fired in less than a minute. The man with the assault rifle hit in the leg, and Deputy Brian Potters shouts out he's been hit. Deputy Potters disoriented, not realizing the gunman is right behind him. The gunman hammers Potters in the face with the butt of his rifle, and when Potters goes down, the gunman keeps beating his face, fracturing his sinus and orbital bones. Deputy Tyler Thoman drops his spent clip, quickly reloads his gun before unloading it at the man attacking Deputy Potters.
Let there be no doubt. This individual got exactly what he deserved.
Now that you just saw that shooting, I'm sure that we all know who I'm talking about. I talked to Tyler shortly thereafter this incident, and he seemed good to go. We even had a relationship and conversations a few months after that, and he seemed good. In the podcast, he talks about how he was able to push down and bury some of his PTSD that didn't show its face till later on. And he's very thankful that he had some close friends that pulled him aside, and now he realized what he was doing. He was just immersing himself into law enforcement, kind of neglecting his family, but he wasn't realizing it. He was just trying to stay busy to keep his mind off things. And I find that very interesting. And I respect him for opening up and talking about it, because most of us as law enforcement probably do the same thing. We'll kind of bear through it, get through it, and not realizing that we're affecting our family in our personal life. So he didn't realize that till a little bit later after the incident of what he's been doing. But yeah, we talked more about how he got involved in law enforcement, what his aspirations are, and a little bit of the PTSD stuff. But I'm super proud of the guy. He didn't let this one incident define who he is. He's still a very proactive cop. He still loves going out there, and chasing bad guys and finding guns and drugs and stuff. So if any incident was to deter you from it, that would be the one, I would assume. But I'm just super proud of the guy, how he opened up and with his willingness to hopefully, help others. But I love this podcast just because of Tyler and I's relationship. But you let me know what you think. So you got to ask yourself, why do you want to do this? What keeps you motivated to stay proactive and get bad guys off the street?
The facts is a big cannon against a little tiny gun of opinions, because we've all heard people give us their opinions.
Let's talk about how easy it is to get narcotics in this country.
Once they're in this country, anywhere within 2 days, the drugs will be in our cities.
Because we know knowledge is power.
Today on Beyond the Barrel, we're here with Tyler, who is a cop in Tennessee. Originally was a cop in Florida. And early in your career, you had a unique situation that you're involved with that kind of made national news. So beyond that, we want to talk about what led up to that, who you are as a person, why you wanted to be the police and all that good stuff. And then kind of shortly about the incident and then kind of the after facts of that said incident. So I'll sit back, let you talk, and interrupt you when I see fit, I guess.
Gotcha. So we were talking like early life stuff. I grew up in Central Florida, like right outside of Daytona Beach. Spent a lot of my time down there, typical Central Florida beach life people. Grew up in a law enforcement household, actually. Military and law enforcement. Both my parents are cops. A lot of my family's in the military, so like throughout my childhood, I kind of had like a set goal of like it was either going to be law enforcement or military for me. I wasn't sure which one. And like throughout time, I realized how much I just appreciate being around my family more than anything, which is kind of what, sort of talked me out of joining the military. My dad had a great law enforcement career, been there, done that kind of guy. My mom started in corrections. She got out to the road, had a good law enforcement career as well. And as much as they tried to talk me out of it, kind of just sort of like we all do with our kids, made my way there eventually. And, kind of started on down that path with originally with corrections, but then made my way out to my patrol agency in Brevard.
Growing up, did you have siblings or no? Were you only?
Yeah, I have a sister, a half sister, and a brother.
Are you the only one in law enforcement, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the only one that decided to go down this path. My brother got into IT work.
Smart man.
Yeah. Oh God. He originally was going to be a pharmacist, and then like halfway through his pharmacy program, he backed out and decided to do computers. And him and his wife work from home and make money hand over fist.
Good for them.
Doing IT work. It's crazy. I'm jealous, but not at the same time because I couldn't. I don't know. I'm too ADD. I can't sit at a computer all day.
Yeah, I agree there. I'm with you with that.
Yeah, my sister actually went to a pretty cool art school put on by Universal. It's like sponsored through Universal Studios, and got a digital arts degree through them, and then never used it. And now she works in like data management for an insurance company. Also working from home, making more money than law enforcement.
Yeah, there's there's many professions.
Yeah, that's a common thing nowadays. Work from home, make more money. So, but
Well, growing up, did you play sports or anything like that?
yeah, so I got into football a little bit as a kid, and then kind of fell back out of that. More so was into cars, motorcycles, and stupid things that get you in trouble. Rode some street bikes for a time. Even into like my early law enforcement career, rode street bikes until I realized it was bad for my career, because I have one of those tendencies: if it goes fast, I go fast. So it is what it is.
Getting into law enforcement and motorcycles, did that ever fear coming to you, seeing the wrecks, and not necessarily even the motorcycle doing anything wrong, just people being not paying attention?
No, because I've wrecked two.
Fair
That
enough.
weren't my fault. I didn't have a motorcycle very long when I wrecked my first one. I was partially at fault. I was going faster than I probably should have been, coming down a back road, and someone pulled out in front of me, and I dumped the bike. Luckily didn't get seriously hurt. A little bit of road rash, stuff like that. I joke I was like that State Farm commercial you always see. Like I was wearing tennis shoes. I was being a goof, wearing tennis shoes and some jeans, and I dumped my bike, and I get up, and there's one of my tennis shoes is in the middle of the road. I'm standing here with one tennis shoe on, one tennis shoe off. Like, luckily I had a helmet and gloves and stuff on, but yeah, I was literally just like an insurance commercial of what not to do. So
Neither accident you got hurt?
luckily,
Yeah.
like I said, a little bit of road rash. The second one I was riding, being in Central Florida, I was riding in downtown Orlando. Worst mistake of my life. Traffic's atrocious. Again, late at night. Actually, my now wife, we were dating at the time, was riding a backpack for me during that one, and someone pulled out in front of me, and he was relatively new at riding, so didn't move with me the way I tried to move. So it kind of like made it like a stiff turn, and we wound up hopping a curb and dumping it instead of running into the side of a car. So, little things here and there, but
Was that
after that,
asphalt or grass?
grass, luckily. Yeah, I aimed for some grass, but it would have been nice. I was hoping, we were actually meeting a buddy, and so we were trying to dip into this turn that was coming up. We were going to like Wendy's or something, I think, and this car just pulled out right before that, like our turn in. So I was hoping to just kind of be able to dip into where they turned out of. But like I said, she didn't. Anybody who rides with somebody, you gotta, if they don't move with you, it makes it harder to like lean a bike. So we couldn't lean far enough. So I wound up just kind of on the sidewalk and then in the grass. So
Makes
and we
sense.
both still rode after that. Rode for a couple years after that. So
They terrify me.
motorcycles?
Yeah, man. I never
Oh
rode
man, I
a
love them.
motorcycle or anything.
Oh.
And I had aspirations to get one when I became a cop. First accident I ever went in was a guy where he, on a motorcycle, started off at a red light, dumped a bike, and died. And that was like one of my first accidents. And he was going not very fast. He was older, wasn't wearing a helmet, so there's a lot of things in play. But I was like, yeah, like if you could die that easy on that thing, I'm not getting on one. So I was like,
Yeah.
never, ever have I. So it was just interesting.
I sold my first one, not because of the crash. I actually continued riding for a couple years after that first crash, and then I sold my first one because I did the smart thing, or the thing everyone tells you to do: start out on like a smaller bike, So I got bored, and I was struggling with that. I mean, I say get bored. I mean, even your small bikes do like 140. But I got bored, and I was like, So I sold it, and I was kind of trying to justify buying another one. Worked some crashes with people that got seriously hurt on motorcycles. Typically not their fault. A few were, yes, but typically not their fault. And just the serious injuries you can get on one, right? There's no protection, and it just is what it is. Then my my wife we were talking about it, and we made a deal. It's actually funny. We made a deal. She wanted a dog. I did not really want a dog at the time because we were in an apartment. I was like, I don't want a dog because if you get a big dog, it's not fair to them to be in an apartment. But I don't want a small dog. So we were talking about moving out of that anyway. So the deal was if she could get a dog, I could get a motorcycle. I was like, well, bet. So I went the day we were supposed to go buy this dog, this black lab. We were supposed to go buy this dog. I went and bought the motorcycle that day, and we were going to go after getting my motorcycle. I bought a Yamaha R6, a brand new. Dumbest decision of my life. Don't buy a brand new bike. Went and bought a brand new bike, and then we were going to go home and then go get this dog. Well, the lady we were going to get, the breeder we were going to get the dog from, had sold the dog before we got there. So now I've got the bike, and my wife doesn't have a dog, and she's pissed. So we kind of had to make that right. So we wound up finding another dog to buy, and so that's how I got back into my second bike that I rode for 3 years, I think, before I sold that. But yeah, motorcycles are fun. Cars are, I'm all into fast cars, fast bikes, but now in my older years, I've gotten away from that. So.
Even fast cars got away from?
Kind of. I've got a 3-year-old, so it's like,
yeah, I get it.
It's one of those things, that was the big driving factor of selling my motorcycle is my wife got pregnant, and I was like, if something bad did happen to me, we already do a career where something bad can happen to you.
Right.
And then I'm putting myself at unnecessary risk just for a hobby to ride a motorcycle that, again, as I already said, like, lack self-control and the speed aspect of things some days. So like I put myself in even more danger in that aspect. So I'm like, you know what? We'll get away from that. But after that, I had a Subaru BRZ that we kind of souped up a little bit and had some fun with for a while, and then decided I needed to be an adult and buy a family car. So we wound up with the soccer mom Durango and things like that. So more of an SUV person now.
Yeah.
I guess.
No, yeah.
Become a dad and you lose a hobby.
Plus, yeah, all the money that you have to now pay for your kids is going away from the hobby.
Oh my God. Dude, living in Florida, like, is expensive as is, but then add childcare on top of it. Cause like my family lived, you said I live in East Tennessee now, but my family lived up here. So we were doing childcare like through daycares or through, you always hear the horror stories about like people who put their kids in daycares and their kids get hurt and stuff like that. So for a little bit when he was real little, we had an in-home babysitter that we scouted out ourselves. We interviewed this lady. She, we like made sure she fit our family goals. And dude, the amount of money we were paying for that was stupid. I mean, just it was crazy. So had childcare, basic child products, diapers, formula, different things. You don't have the money to be spending on sports cars and motorcycles anymore.
With back to the profession. So, were you working when you had these bikes, and what kind of jobs were you having?
So when I started in corrections I had a bike then, and then when I got out to the road, I bought another bike about maybe a year into my career as a deputy, and the other thing that probably should have drove me away from it's hearing other people that were deputies that had bikes that would do stupid stuff and get themselves in trouble. And 'cause, I mean, anybody who's in law enforcement, we all know, like, there's those policies about conduct off duty, things like that. And we've all heard the stories. Yeah, don't go out and be stupid and get yourself in trouble off duty. It'll hurt your job here. And then you hear these people that come out here and they ride these motorcycles like a-holes, or stupid things like that. And then it bites them in the butt. It comes back and bites them at work. And so that should have been the first factor to get me away from it, because, I hung out with people that wanted to do stupid things. Bad influences.
How old were you when you got into corrections?
20. Yeah. No, 21. It's 21 years old.
And then how long before you became a deputy? All with the same agency too?
No, 2 years. So I did about a year and a half as a corrections officer. I knew about 6 months in that was not for me. Anybody who's ever done it, like, my hat's off to those guys. I have friends who've been corrections officers for 10 years, and they're going to do a full 25 or 30-year career there. And kudos to those guys. I could not go to work every day and be incarcerated for a paycheck.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't know how they do it, but definitely, like, kudos to them.
Yeah, a year and a half in, I had applied to go to the academy, and I applied for the sheriff's office. So where I was working at was Volusia County Department of Corrections. So their system is separate. Like, most people know the sheriff's office runs the jail at a lot of places. Well, that wasn't the fact at Volusia County. They were actually separate. The sheriff's office is a sheriff's office, and the jail was public protection run through the county, basically. So they separated them. So I had to essentially quit my job to go start another job with the same county. Was how it would have worked out.
Interesting. That's
yeah,
very...
super weird. But my dad, like I said, kind of the beginning, my dad was a been there, done that guy. My mom had worked at the jail. She then went out into the road and worked as a deputy at Volusia County. And so, like, throughout my time in corrections and then going to the academy, everybody knew me by, like, who my parents were. So I'd go to the academy and I'd bump into people that worked with my parents, and they'd tell me all these crazy stories about my dad, about, like, things he'd done or how great my parents are, this, that, and the other. It kind of, like, started to dawn on me, like, I'm not going to be my own person here. Like, anything I get, the question's going to be, did I get it because who my mom and dad are?
Were they still working when you started?
They would have been had I have not. So, like, they retired pretty much right before, almost right around the exact same time that I got into patrol.
Okay.
So I bounced out and went over to Brevard County, which is an adjacent county to Volusia, and started working over there. No one knew me. Didn't have any, like, it was all just going to be what I made out of my career, not, expecting me to be my parents' kid. So
what did mom and dad get into, like, specialties or anything like that?
Yeah. So my dad originally, it's funny, if I remember correctly, my dad originally started his career in Volusia County as, like, a part-time position, because this is back in, like, the 90s when everyone hears the stories where agencies weren't hiring people, It was hard to get a job in law enforcement, and so he started out like part-time. He was working for my grandfather painting houses during the day, part-time as a deputy at night, driving a transport van. Slowly made his way out to patrol. Got a full-time gig there. Throughout his time there, he then became got his way into narcotics, um, major case, so like homicide, stuff like that. And then throughout, by the end of his career, he had made his way. He became a lieutenant, and he was the supervisor over major case, and so he was supervising homicide, all that violent crime side of stuff. So, and that's always the career I wanted. So, like, that was kind of why I was choosing to go somewhere else, because I knew a lot of it would come out to be, oh, you're here in major case because type thing. What my mom started in corrections, did pretty much everything you could do in corrections, as far as I remember, intake, different specialty unit stuff, things like that. She came out to the road, and her and my dad working for the same agency. Most agencies have nepotism policies, things like that. She unfortunately kind of got boned in her career in the very beginning, because my dad got promoted to sergeant over a whole like patrol district, and it wound up being an issue with nepotism there. So they pretty much offered her, hey, you can go back to the jail, or you can go like work courts. So she kind of like got shafted into the court side until my dad got out of patrol supervision. And then they offered, I think they offered her a spot back out, but at that point it had been like years, and she's like, I work on Monday through Friday. I have kids. She's home every night with us growing up. So family life wise, it worked out. It sucked for her that like that kind of, stifled her career, I think, for some of the things that she would have liked to do, but family life wise, I think it worked out better. So
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it kind of sucks that they wouldn't offer like the same position just away from where your dad was the boss. Like
yeah,
theoretically, I think that would have worked just fine too.
there was, if I understand, it was like, this is back in like early 2000s. So there wasn't like where I work now, we have 4 patrol sergeants on a shift. I don't really think that it was kind of laid out that way back then. I think it was more so like there was 2 sergeants or something like that for they split the county in half. It's like, so
That makes
it
sense.
ultimately wound up where there probably would have been some overlap anyways. So
That makes sense.
they had a pretty strict nepotism policy there. So that was also a concern for me when I was looking at going there. Like, what would I be allowed to do? What wouldn't I be allowed to do? And my dad's retirement was kind of like a on a whim thing. It wasn't like he had been planning, counting down the days or anything like that. It just kind of, the opportunity presented itself, or some opportunities presented themselves, and he's like, they're both like, yep, we're out. We're
Did,
just
did your dad go to like the private sector type of work, or did?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
he did private investigations work, because he started, it's actually crazy. He started a lot of like cell towers and cell dump investigations at the Volusia County Sheriff's Office. So when he got out, he started doing that in the private sector stuff, a lot of like cell dumping and stuff like that. So he was making pretty good money
That's
to
awesome.
leave that.
Yeah, good for him. For you, so you get around the age of 23, you get hired, and then did
Yep.
you have to put yourself through the police academy, or do you get hired and then they put you through? No, you have to put yourself.
So you can do either one. I put myself through it because I wanted out of the jail that bad. It was like, dude, I couldn't get out fast enough. So I put myself through the academy, and then once I started the academy, what my hope was, it didn't really pan out that way, unfortunately. But what my hope was, I was going to get started in the academy, and I was going to put out my applications of the places I wanted to go. Hope I'd get, picked up. Well, I was pretty confident I'd get picked up by somebody in the academy. I didn't really know why I wouldn't. Um, and then they would pick up paying for the rest of my academy, or at least I'd be drawing a paycheck at that point. Didn't really work out that way. A lot, like during my academy time, there was a lot of people that didn't get hired in the academy. There was only, I think, like my academy class is like 30 or 40 people, and only 10 or 12 people had jobs throughout the academy. And most of those guys were hired before they got there. Like a handful of people got picked up during the academy, but it was like super slim. And I think it was because of what was explained to me is like a lot of these agencies were picking these people up in the academy, and then they're paying for them. And then these people aren't passing the state test, or they're failing tests in the academy. It's like, hey, we just shelled a shitload of money into you, and you didn't even make it out of the academy.
That makes sense.
So
What year was this approximately?
2017.
Okay,
So late 16, early 17, I think it was roughly.
that makes sense.
So we had an issue with that. I know several people in the academy that didn't like the way the academy works in Florida is, or at least the one I went to is you can fail one test and you get a retake on we had two separate things: low liability, high liability. So your high liability stuff is, driving or firearms, things like that. You can fail and retake one low liability, and you can fail and retake one high liability. If you fail a second one, you're done. So
We get 3.
you get 3 retakes.
No, take that back. You get 3 fails, and then
Yeah.
like basically like so I guess it theoretically could be the 3 at the same one, but
Yeah.
the way it kind of is like is on your like I guess like your, not even your practicals, but like your how they divide up the tests. I think you're like
Mhm.
4 or 6 tests throughout the thing. You can fail each whatever one. Theoretically, I was thinking like 1 and then you get a retake, but
Yeah.
you get 3 fails total and you're done.
So we had a practical or a written test for every like breakdown. So like we had a legal side and you had a test. We had a first aid, you had a test. We had, firearms, you have a practical and a written test. So if you went to firearms and say you failed your practical and your written, that's your high and your low liability fails right there.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it was pretty rough. I'm a decent test taker. That's like, my wife hates that about me. I don't study for a test. I retain knowledge really well for whatever reason. I got out of the academy, and we have to wait 3 days to take our state test. I applied for my state test as soon as they told us we were allowed to apply for the earliest test date I could take, because you get 3 retakes of the state test too.
Okay.
So if you fail it, you can retake it. If you fail it again, if you run out of your 3 failures, you have to redo the entire police academy.
Wow.
So I pretty much said, I'm going to go hit the state test. If I fail it, I know what to expect going back. I left my state test with like a 94% or something like that. Never studied for it a day in my life.
That's awesome.
They offered us, like, it's actually funny. Again, this is the thing my wife hates about me. They offered us like this day at the academy, like, hey, it's after your academy. You guys can come back and we're going to kind of go over some stuff. Like, we're going to rehash all this, because our academy is 6 months long. Like, we're going to rehash everything because it's a lot of knowledge. I didn't even go to that, because I was like, I'm not going to sit in a room with a bunch of people and, be stuck here all day. So like, I'll just go take the test and see what happens. And passed. So, but
That's
I know some people in my academy that failed their state test 3 times. I know some people that failed out of the classes. And I think you're allowed to like do makeup classes. Like, so if you fail first aid, for instance, you can go back and take first aid with another, like basic law enforcement school, if I remember correctly. But I think that's why. I think agencies were shelling a lot of money into people, and then they were winding up short.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense.
Yeah.
So you get out how long before you get picked up?
I was out of the academy for, I want to say, 3 months, and I was in the hiring process with 2 agencies simultaneously. Daytona Beach Police Department and Brevard County Sheriff's Office. And both would have been super cool places to go. I had buddies that worked for Daytona Beach that straight up told me they're like, 3 years of law enforcement experience at Daytona Beach Police Department is the equivalent of, 5 or 10 years at other places, because it's a crazy place. People that aren't from Florida, who don't hang out in Daytona, it's a crazy place. They get into just all kinds of nonsense. Brevard called me a week before Daytona was going to offer me the job and offered me my job. So out of respect, I called Daytona. I'm like, hey, I got a job offer. I'm going to take it. And my recruiter at Daytona Beach was like, hey man, like we're doing your paperwork. Is there anything? I was like, no, not because I didn't want to go there, but I could, in my opinion, I couldn't risk it. Like if I turned down one job offer that was a guarantee and then theirs didn't come through, I was like, no, I can't. I've been unemployed for at that point for 9 months. I was like, yeah, I'm burning cash faster than I can like count at this point, and it was getting tight. So I was like, no, I need a job. Something's got to give.
When you went through the academy, was there any like specialties that you took interest in?
What do you mean by that?
Like the K9 SWAT, anything like that at the academy that you
So,
piqued your interest?
I've always kind of wanted to be, and I haven't ever done it, but I've always kind of wanted to be on like attack team or SWAT team, something like that. I also have the ambitions for K9 actually. That was something I tried out for at my last agency right before I left. But the problem that with the K9 aspect, and I'm sure you know, I mean, I don't know how it is at your agency, but a lot of agencies you cannot be on multiple specialty units simultaneously. So if I went K9, I'm taking at least a 4-year commitment to something, because I mean the lifespan of a normal patrol dog's what, 4 to 6 years, give or take,
Yeah, 8.
sometimes longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's minimum a 4-year commitment, or longer, that I can't go to, SWAT or an investigative spot or anything else that I want to do, because you've made this commitment, and in my opinion it's garbage to take that commitment and then be like, hey, I know you shelled all this money out to me and this dog, but I'm out.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
uh,
There's a lot of money up front with dogs too. So yeah.
oh God. Yeah, I just spent 2 days at our canine training today and yesterday. The guy I'm currently riding with is a canine officer, and because I'm
Nice.
lateral, they let me go hang out over there with them and got to kind of do some hands-on, experience with canine training with us, and realizing like there's a shitload of money and time that goes into this. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
so yeah, for the most part, it will be one of those two that I would say are the ultimate goals for me. But I also kind of like the violent crime aspect. So I'm a violent crime chaser guy, dope, warrants, guns, things like that. So investigations has always been a thing for me, but not like your typical. I don't want to go work frauds.
Yeah, so I was proud. Was
Yeah,
my yeah.
yeah. I'm
So
not trying to go chase frauds.
I don't blame you. So at Daytona Beach and Brevard, they both theoretically, if they would have panned out, offer those opportunities. Okay.
Yeah. So the cool part with like Daytona Beach is they have like a joint task force for narcotics and stuff like that with Volusia County. So they do joint narcotics with the cities and the county, and it's the same with Brevard. Brevard has joint task forces with narcotics and gangs and things like that. So they kind of, at least when I was there, they incorporated everybody kind of into it. So both aspects were there for me at either one. But Brevard was just a bigger agency, so I felt like, one, the job offer came first, but two, it's a bigger agency, so I figured the like career potential, the career growth would be better there. But it
Cool.
still got me away from like the family history stuff.
No, yeah, that makes sense. How long were you I guess on the job with Brevard before your incident?
Ooh. I got hired December of 2018, December 3rd, 2018. My incident occurred July 30th of 2021.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you were in there for 3 years or
pretty,
so.
yeah, I think 2.5 years, give or take, something like that.
Okay.
So still early on in my career.
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody hopes to ever like be in a shooting or anything like that, but most of us kind of like think, so the mentality I had is like, the statistic is, or at least it was, less than 3% of cops will ever get in a shooting in their career. I I haven't researched that recently. I'm beginning to assume it's probably a little bit higher. But back then it was, that was the number they always played out to you, 3%. So I was like, the odds are
Yeah, it's
forever
still
in my
pretty
favor.
yeah, even
Yeah.
even if it's went up a little bit, it's still pretty
Yeah.
rare for cops.
Yeah. So I was like, I'll
Do
be
you know
good.
do you know the statistics if you've been in one that you'll be in two?
Yes.
It goes up
Yeah.
dramatically, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like double or triple that you'll like be involved in a second one, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works. Like, but it
I have my opinions on that. But yeah, I really believed it was never going to be me. But at the same time, like I was delusional about that because I was always out chasing dope dealers and gang members and warrants and shit. So I should have known like that was coming. It's actually a conversation I had with my dad one day.
prior
Good part about him being a cop. Like I was like telling him like, dude, I'm so proactive. Like my sergeant was trying to get me to sign up for our union. We had PBA. He's like, dude, sign up for the union. He's like, he just kept telling me, he's like, I have a feeling you may need them one day. And I was like, nah, I don't need the union. I don't need a rep. I had a conversation with my dad and I was like, and I remember I was at a gas station parking lot on the phone with him while I was at work and we were just kind of like shooting the shit. And I was like, I feel like I increase my chances drastically by doing the things I do. I think it was 6 months later, give or take, after that conversation, I got my shooting, and I was not a member of the PBA at the time. I became a member that day. Not that it helped, but because they had an agreement, they wouldn't do it for our membership. They wouldn't like cover us for our membership. We'd have to pay for it at that point, like attorneys.
Yeah.
So
What leading up to this, like you get out of FTO and you start being the police and ultimately you just talk about you're always chasing bad guys basically. So is that what your ultimate goal was? And were you just working general patrol assignments or were you working any type of specialty details or anything like that?
So in the beginning, I worked the zone I worked for anybody who's like familiar with it. I worked in the city of Cape Canaveral. We were it's a precinct that is they're paid for by the city. They pay for the sheriff's office to come and work it, and they pay a lot of money. We had a crazy amount of deputies in this small little city. I think my patrol shift was like 9 people in 3 square miles, or less square mileage, because we had the Canaveral port that they wanted us to cover and stuff like that too. But when I was working night shift for 2.5 years, nothing's going on the port. There's no cruises coming in or out. So you've got, 6 or 7 patrol guys, a corporal, a sergeant, and a lieutenant out there. And we had free reign of bars, strip clubs, anything you could ever hope to get into was there. And because it was such a small precinct, anytime a call came out, chances are you were on scene within a minute. So you're getting there and everything is still in progress. Shootings are still in progress or they've just occurred, which was a couple occurrences with us where we showed up and it was like the shooting had just happened. So it was pretty nuts. But in the beginning, I became a DUI guy. I just chased a lot of DUIs for probably the first year and a half because it was easy. I mean, it was shooting fish in a barrel in a place that's got 12 bars, and then it got to a point where I was like, I don't want to chase DUIs as much anymore. I want to start chasing dope. And then it was always a 50-50. Like, if you pull over a car, are they drunk? Or is it something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that started my career into chasing dope. About a year and a half in, I think I'd found a couple good dope hits and I was like, yeah.
Little more
Like you always say, once you get one, it's like an addiction. You just have to keep chasing it.
Yep, exactly.
I got a couple good dope hits, some guns out of some cars, some good warrants on traffic stops, and that really opened it up. And then I heard about this interdiction unit we were starting, which was Operation Stone Garden, which is with Homeland Security and Border Patrol. Because Brevard County has such a large landmass of Interstate 95, which is your direct route from Miami out of Florida. So huge drug trafficking area. So they were like starting to bring us into Operation Stone Garden, and that's when I started looking into going to some schools. And that's when I got selected for that unit maybe 3 weeks or a month before your class that I went to in Jacksonville. So I went to your class right before, like, and it was like kind of a part-time gig. Like we were all handpicked to be there in the beginning. So we did it off duty, so it was all overtime based. And so like when we were kind of working it, there's like 10 of us out there maybe
Oh, wow.
working the interstate together. So 10 or less. And we're just out there burning it down, looking, and most of us had never done interdiction before. So we're, trying to learn. Your class helped a lot for like understanding the beginning, like basics of it, of like look for behaviors, don't like kind of the way you described it. It is like in the beginning you were trying not to stop carloads of people, things that most of us that have never done it don't understand. And so learned a lot of the like tools of the trade, or the beginning tools of the trade there with you, and hit a couple good stops in the very beginning. Hit a half a kilo of fentanyl in a car, and I was like, that was it. That was the largest I'd ever gotten. Half a kilo of fentanyl, and I was sold. I was like, damn, this is it. Like I got to do this forever. Like I don't know what else to do. I think I was only like 2 weeks in, give or take, and then I got a car with some guns in it after that, and I was like, yep, I'm in it. Then I broke the rules. Huh?
I would say I think that's the biggest learning curve you talked about, just like understanding like the occupancy of cars when people are trying to do something and be discreet compared to where we came from. Because I came from a city too,
Yeah.
and more occupants, I had better chances, I guess. Like I don't know, but that's kind of what I would always stop. More occupants in a car, and I would have better success when I'm working like a city environment. Doesn't transition that well to the highway though.
No, and I mean, let's be honest. In the city, you got felony on wheels. You've got every other Nissan Altima is probably a crime on wheels. Like I mean, but you gotta kind of like learn to curve that a little bit and aiming more towards behaviors and stuff. And it's such a difference. And your average behaviors versus the guy that's dealing drugs in your local city versus the person running kilos or whatever down the interstate, or human trafficking or guns, and they're two different things. So learning how to differentiate those was hard, especially because I'd only been a cop for maybe 2 years. So I really didn't even know how to be a cop yet. Like
I think
I'm a true believer that your first 3 years is just figuring out what to do. Like how to be a cop is what your first 3 years should be. But I was about 2 years on when this all started, maybe about 2.5 years, give or take. And then following all the rules, keeping up with all the training and stuff, and really like trying to stay vigilant, not getting complacent, getting all these different, stops in, learning all that nonsense. And then the day of the incident, the day that I got into my shooting, was such a weird, surreal day. I have never in my entire life, and even since then, I've never gotten to a point like I'd get up to go to work on Stone Garden, and my wife will tell you, swear by it, I was always excited, like getting up. I'm like, damn, I'm going to do what I want to do today. Like, I'm not out here humping calls or doing something stupid. I'm going to do what I've always strived to do. The day of the incident, I woke up and I dreaded it. I didn't want to go. Couldn't tell you why. Didn't want to go. And she looked at me, she goes, call out. It's a joke I would always make about like, if I don't want to go to work out, I'll just call out. You know, I'm never that guy because you leave people hanging if you do. But I had this feeling like if I called out that day that I wouldn't get invited back. So I'm like, I have to go. Like, you know, they picked us to be here. We can't, you know what I mean? We can't be these people that are flaky. It's like, I'll go. So I'm on the way there, and weirdly enough, I get a couple Snapchats for some people I hadn't talked to in years, people I
Wow.
went to the academy with. Um, super, super weird. The whole day was really weird. I'm gonna be honest. If I could roll the clock back, I probably should have just gone home. My sergeant was not working because it was an off-duty thing overtime. So my sergeant texts me and he's like, "Hey, I know you're working Stone Garden today. Yeah, just be safe. Keep your head on a swivel. Be safe." I was like, "Okay, always, whatever."
Is that
Blow that off.
is it, yeah, is
That's
that
not the norm.
okay.
Yeah, that
Wow.
was odd. That was out of the norm. Me and him are great friends. We're great friends still. We've taken our kids to Disney together. He's come up here to Tennessee, and we've gone to theme parks up here. We do all kinds. We talk regularly, but that was abnormal. My dad texted me, which was abnormal, telling me to, hey, just be safe today.
Jesus.
People that I went to the academy with that I still talk to every now and then, like, you know, you send like the quick Snapchats to them or whatever, just kind of, I don't know, it's like that autopilot thing you do with people. You just snap. I don't know if you use Snapchat, but sometimes you just snap people that you're like friends with, I guess, like random snaps or whatever here and there, just to kind of like stay somewhat connected. A
Gotcha.
couple of them messaged me because I put a thing up on my story, like being funny with like my law enforcement friends. 'Cause I had a law enforcement story versus a separate one, kind of thing. Just being funny, like on the way there. To, if I remember correctly, I think my story was something to the effect of going to do what I love best on the way to chase traffickers. You're just being funny. And several people that I had not talked to in a while were like, "Hey, be careful out there today."
Wow.
What is going on with people? Like, leave me alone. So I get there and I'm late, which is not normal for me. I'm late getting in there. I hit traffic and I get into the briefing room and everyone's already there. And of course, I'm walking in last like a jackass. And the other deputy that was there for my shooting, made a joke about most of the guys that had been hitting stuff on the interstate we were from Canaveral. So a couple people made like, "Oh, Canaveral's here," like kind of being funny. So we leave, go to the gas station, and I'll never forget this, but me and Brian, the other deputy's name is Brian, we pulled up at the same gas station to get gas that day, and we're kind of like back and forth, like bantering with each other. And I don't remember the whole banter, but I will never forget the phrase I said to him before we went inside. He was kind of giving me shit about like finding dope, and you know, I'd found the most dope at that point in time, I think, on Stone Garden. And I looked at him, and I remember I pointed at him, and I was like, "Sorry, buddy, you and me, we're gonna be fucking heroes today." Roll back the clock on that one, really.
You guys were.
So, yeah, still, I mean,
You guys
and it
were.
was 6 hours later. 6 hours after, roughly after that conversation at the gas station, the gas station clerk paid for all of our stuff.
Wow.
And I'm not normally one that like, I don't get fountain drinks because I mean we all know, all of us that are cops, like they'll always give you a fountain drink for free. So I don't like doing that, especially because I didn't normally work that zone. So these people don't see me, they don't know me. I don't work their area. They don't get any benefit from me really. So I grabbed 2 Red Bulls and a Gatorade, and she insisted on paying for our stuff. Like, and I was like, no, I got it. Insisted on it. So the whole day is just weird at this point. The whole day is super weird. And I stopped several cars throughout the day, and they were all like duds. Just everything's a dud. I was like, ugh. I was kind of getting annoyed with myself. I'm like, I am not getting anywhere. In the car before my shooting, I stopped this lady. All the sign should have been there. I stop her, and it's this like 70, 60-year-old, maybe, like so nice of a lady. And I'm just like, I'm trying to end my traffic stop as I'm standing at her window. Like, I'm just like, I don't even want to go back to my car and run your license. Like, you just kind of, when you know that you're like, this is not it. And I go back to my car and I run her license. I'm like, okay, everything's clear. Like, this lady has never gotten a ticket in her life. She's never been pulled over in her life. She's a local. I'm like, and I'm so complacent on that traffic stop. Like, if that lady wanted to kill me, she probably would have had me dead to rights, just because I'm like, this is not it. Like, I just want out, And at that point, we had like a set spot on the interstate that we typically worked. That way there was always somebody near you. But because I was following her, I'd gone a little further than I should have, like outside of that area. So I was like, I need to bang a U-turn and go back to where I belong with, backup and, extra people. I missed my turnaround in the interstate, so I had to go down to the next one, which pushed me further down than I should have been. So then I make the turnaround finally, and as I'm making this turnaround, I see this car that stands out to me, and I didn't remember why at first, but I'd stopped that car 2 weeks ago in my patrol zone, and it was leaving a hotel that we knew drug trafficking was coming out of. So I get behind it, I'm running it, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it's eating me up inside. I'm like, I know this car. Why do I know this car? Like, and then I remember, this is the Canaveral car. This car is 60 miles from where I stopped it at. What is it doing here now? So it all kind of starts playing out. I remember I stopped it for bad window tint. It still has bad window tint. I stop it again. And I'm on that traffic stop for 7.5 minutes by myself, I think it was. My skin's crawling. Everything's wrong. I can tell there's something going on. I called for a dog before I lit that car up, and a backup before I even lit that car up. Because I was like, this is the car. There's going to be something in it. I don't know what the deal is. There's 3 occupants, I walk up. When I first stopped it, they actually stopped in a way that, like, kept me sort of in the roadway, and they pulled in this parking lot, and then, air horn people a couple times. They pull up. So, like, I'm barely in the parking lot. Like, the back end of my SUV, because we drove Ford Explorers, is partially, like, almost out in the roadway. So I'm like in this really uncomfortable spot. And I'm diagnosed ADHD. Everything is fast paced for me. So I normally have to like slow myself down to not rush up on a car. So I'm standing there and I'm watching this car for a minute before I approach it, and just everybody that pushes the passenger side approach, it's drilled into us. So I'm come around my car on the back of it, and I do the passenger side approach, and the backseat passenger, who is soon to be my suspect in my shooting, is nervous, not making eye contact with me. He turned out to be like a 17-time career criminal, like for drugs, guns, all kinds of things.
So with that, is that instantly as a cop, I mean, 3 years less on, you still, the passenger in a car theoretically doesn't have anything to worry about. The driver would be the one that, so
Yeah.
where your attend is already up, then I'm guessing.
Yeah. So I always wear long sleeves at work, because, digging in cars, fighting people, whatever, I wear long sleeves. It is probably 90 degrees out. This is the peak of summer. It's in August. I'm wearing long sleeves, and I have goosebumps that I can feel on my arms while I'm talking to this guy. Because from my time at the jail, we always talk about inmate manipulation. Inmates will do a lot of things to bring your guard down, to manipulate you, to convince you to do things for them. And he reminded me of inmate manipulation in a lot of ways. He's sitting in the back seat with his hands like this, where he's showing me his hands the whole time. The whole time he's showing me his hands, but they're across his body. So his right arm is like up against his chest, and the hands are out like this on top of his knee, where I can see him. He doesn't want to roll the window down all the way. It's got 3% window tint. Things are just really, him and I are talking. And because of how he's making me feel, I would not walk past him. I ran my whole traffic stop from basically the back tire. I'm asking for information from the driver and the front seat passenger. I ask him for his info, like we all do. We just like to know who we're out with, but especially because of the way he's acting. And he refuses to ID, which there's not much I can do with that legally in the state of Florida. He's allowed to refuse the ID. Refuses ID, but he's got long dreads and he's looking at me at like the side of his face like this with his dreads in his face. I can't see his face. I have no idea who this guy is. Not a clue. And he's just not being normal. And he asked me if he's like free to leave. And I'm like, no, nobody in this car is going anywhere. Like it's I play your infamous role there. I'm like, dude, look, it's just a traffic stop, man. No fines, no penalties. It's gonna be a warning in a minute as long as his license checks out, all this good shit. Nobody in the car's got an ID on them. Driver doesn't have one, front passenger doesn't have one. Like everything's wrong. I'm like, this is not normal. This car doesn't even belong here. I didn't even get back in my car to run, and I do all my traffic stops from inside my car. Like I go back to my front seat, I run your driver's license, I all that on my computer because the tool is there, let's use it. Because of how nervous I was, I didn't even get back in my car to run all the information. I brought the driver back to me. And we stood outside of my car and I ran all their information on my phone, on my work phone. And because I was like, somebody else needs to get here. Something's wrong. I don't know what it is. Fast forward, Brian Potters shows up on my stop. And I hear him coming because he's like lights and siren. Now I have not missed a status check. They checked on me a couple times. Hey, I'm 10-4, I'm good, whatever. I haven't missed any status checks. But he's showing up lights and siren, which to me was a problem. So I'm like, now everybody's amped. Why is so I'm trying to like be goofy about it, like, oh, why is he driving like, kind of like I'm trying to downplay this thing. So I'm like, oh, this just amp everyone up or whatever. But everyone's super chill still. He gets out of the car. I pull the front passenger out and I tell him, I'm like, hey, hang out with this backseat passenger. Like it's that level of, I don't want this guy by himself. Something is wrong. So I'm then asking the passenger, same question to ask the driver, hey, are there any guns in the car? Because this is where I'm thinking this is going to go. Like, are there any guns in the car? Is there any dope in the car? Is there, who is this guy? What's his deal? He won't tell me his name. She tells me like they all refer to him as P. His name is Paris. I get her to give me enough indicators to believe he's got dope and warrants. When I tell Brian to get him out of the car is when it goes absolutely haywire. We're talking to this guy like we're normal people. I fist bumped him at one point on the traffic stop. I'll never do that again.
So his arms are crossed. Did he give you the left or did he?
The right. Or yeah, his left. Not his right hand, his left hand. He reached his left hand across. And why will be explained in a minute. And that it drives me nuts. I hate that I missed it. I don't know that I could have even seen it. I don't know. So he's sitting like this. So at one point in time, when he was being weird, I said, kind of like put off like, hey man, look, I'm just asking you to do this stuff for my safety and yours. I said, well, my exact words were, with all the bullshit going on in the world today, I'm not getting shot over something stupid. And he sticks his fist out the car and I fist bump him. Kind of trying to just play this like, hey, we're all good here, even though I know something's wrong. So Brian goes to get him out of the car and the guy tries to tell him, there's a dog in the car. I didn't know. It's like a little like small dog. And I didn't know there's a baby in the car either, because it's the quietest 3-month-old baby I've ever seen in my life. He tries to tell Brian, I got a dog in the car. And Brian's like, I got dogs. No big deal. I'll watch the dog. The guy back here wants to talk to you. And so then he's like, well, I got a baby. And Brian's like, I got kids. Oh, good. I'll watch the baby. This guy back here wants to talk to you. And then it's like, this guy realizes this isn't a request anymore. Like, I'm getting out of this car one way or another. So he leans forward to set the dog on the floor to get out. And when he leans forward, what Brian told me he saw was a buffer tube from a AR style rifle comes up and out of a hoodie that he's wearing. It comes out of the collar of the hoodie when he leaned over. So what I believe he was doing, based on statements and things I've learned since the shooting, was he was using his arms to pin. It was a short barrel rifle that he was pinning to his body underneath the hoodie to conceal it, so that if this time did come, he already had the gun on him. It was going to be go time. So he gets out of the car, and as he's getting out, if you watch the video, if you listen to it, it's so weird. He literally tells Brian to his face, "You better back up," as he racks this rifle and proceeds to start shooting almost at point blank range at Brian, and ungodly somehow misses him.
Bullets fly when a pair of Florida deputies are suddenly ambushed
from less than 6 feet away, but he's just punching out and just kind of letting it rip. So we kind of wind up in this 45-second gunfight. Unfortunately for his luck, deceased at the end of it. And I wind up on 14 days of administrative leave, where I go home and live out life as normal as I thought it was.
So during one, I just want to go, but during that shooting, the other two people completely compliant, don't say anything. Okay. And
it all started with a traffic stop. Deputy Tyler Thoman talking to a woman while another person rests against the trunk of the sedan. A second deputy, Brian Potters, approaches the vehicle and inside sees a third adult and a baby, and also a dog in the back seat. He makes small talk about his own kids and asks the adult to get out of the vehicle.
He wants to talk to you. Is that all you're? Yeah. I'll watch it for you. He's all right. I got babies. Oh, you got a dog too? Hell. I'll make sure they're all right. I got babies too, man.
That's when the car door opens and all hell breaks loose. More than 61 bullets fired in less than a minute. The man with the assault rifle hit in the leg, and Deputy Brian Potters shouts out he's been hit. Deputy Potters disoriented, not realizing the gunman is right behind him. The gunman hammers Potters in the face with the butt of his rifle, and when Potters goes down, the gunman keeps beating his face, fracturing his sinus and orbital bones. Deputy Tyler Thoman drops his spent clip, quickly reloads his gun before unloading it at the man attacking Deputy Potters.
Let there be no doubt. This individual got exactly what he deserved.
Gentlemen, whether you were leading the charge at work or just in line at happy hour, you need gear that can keep up. From our rugged beard and oil balm that tame the wildest whiskers to our classic pomade that locks in that clean, commanding look, Semper Suave has your six. No flakes, no fuss, all day, and battlefield level confidence. So square that beard line up, even though people in counterculture think that I don't have a beard. Donut shop. Semper Suave has got your six. Make you look slick. And keep you sharp for critical missions or to serve and protect. Check out Semper Suave. We're thrilled to have them as a sponsor. Let us know what you think.
then the suspect in this, did he ever say anything at all?
He never said anything to me, really, that would have led me to believe it was turning to that point, right? So what I've learned after the fact was, when I was stopping the car, he told them to run. He told them, don't stop, run. And the driver told him, no, there's a baby in the car. There's I'm not doing that. I'll handle the stop. It'll be fine. So Paris tells them, run him. I have a gun and dope. And he had active warrants out for his arrest. They still opted to stop. And if I understood it correctly, the conversation that was had in the car was, you handle this stop or I will. And at that point, that's when the rifle came out of what was actually a gun box that was in the seat that the car seat was sat on top of, and he was sitting on top of the other half of it. So him and the car seat were concealing a gun box that had this short barrel rifle. It had an M14 in it and a snub nose revolver. So he had several guns in the car. He had Molly in the car. I think he had Molly in his system. He definitely had Molly in his system. I think he had Molly in the car. Some money, a little bit of money or whatever, but it's all just typical, it wasn't true interdiction stuff like you would think where you're looking for kilos. It was typical, drug dealer.
I mean, it's all interdiction, just
Amounts.
at a different.
Yeah. It's smaller scale, like dope in that aspect. So, he told them basically to flee or whatever, and if they didn't, that he would handle it. What we did not know until later was there was a second car, like we've all kind of been, learning throughout time, follow cars, things like that. And when I tried to pull them over, I'd actually ignored the car because it blew past me at like Mach Jesus, trying to get my attention. But I was so target focused, I don't even know that I really noticed it at that point. But I pulled them over. And from what we understand is that follow car kind of pulled up down the road, and there was this understanding that Paris was going to jump out of the car and run, handle business, and then, which I'm assuming was I was going to probably chase him because that's what we all do. I'd run out into the middle of no man's land, and then he would probably engage a gunfight with me and then get in the car and leave. Was more than likely what was probably, I think, the plan there. But unfortunately, when Brian showed up, that second officer showed up, and I think what had happened is he had spent so much time building up the courage to do what he was going to do that he had waited too long. So he kind of like lost the opportunity, which thankfully for me, I'm super happy about. But because I'm like a dog with a bone, man. Somebody jumps out of a car, takes off running. I mean, how many of us are going to just be like, oh, well, see you later, Bob, and just let him go? A lot of us will chase that. So,
do you know what they were going to go do? Like, did the other people tell you, like, what was their plan? Why were they driving with these guns or anything?
So Paris had been hiding out with these warrants for sale and manufacture of drugs, several different counts of it, a bond revocation warrant, and I think one other one. So he'd been hiding out at his house at the north end of Brevard County up in the Titusville area. And some deputies had gone there looking for him, and I think kind of gave up the fact that he was there. Like, so he realized they're not going to stop coming here. This is my house. I need to go somewhere else. Like I think his wife let him search the house, and he was hiding in the attic, I think, if I remember correctly. And so they wound up not finding him. So what he had done is he got a bunch of his stuff together, and he was going to hide out in West Melbourne. It was either West Melbourne or Melbourne. I stopped him in West Melbourne, which they're two different cities. I stopped him in West Melbourne, but I think he was headed, if I understood, to a hotel to hide out where they wouldn't know to look for him because he was, evading these. He was evading our fugitive unit that was tracking him, essentially, or trying to track him. But so yeah, I don't think that they were going to do any like serious. I don't think they were going to do a shooting or kill anybody or anything like that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think it was more so him just trying to go find somewhere where he had a better chance of not getting caught.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So post shooting, how many times did you end up shooting him?
32, I think. He had 32 entry exit wounds is my understanding. So mind you, most of them non-fatal, because what people don't realize is when you're I mean, I'm a good shooter on an average day, in my opinion. Good enough to get the job done. However, I use my iron sights or I use my optic when I'm shooting at the range, whereas out there, you're not using any of that. Like, people don't realize a lot of it's point shoot. You're stressed. Everything you see is just, it's down to here. I mean, audible occlusion and visual occlusion and fine motor skills, all of it's out the window. You're just trying to literally the bare minimum, like, instinct of fight for survival. So 99% of my shooting was me just cranking rounds at this guy who's shooting at my partner, who at one point in the video you'll see he trips and falls between the cars because he's just trying to get off the X. And so he's shooting at him while I'm literally leaning up behind my car, which you can't see from me, but I'm leaning up behind my car and I'm just as fast as I can running a mag at this guy to try and get him to stop shooting.
And
So like
you would hit him there, right? Because he got hit in the leg. And
hit in the knee.
Okay.
He got hit in the knee at one point, and then he like limps to cover. And while he's limping to cover, I think we shoot him. One of us shoots him in the butt cheek, like just random different locations. But when he got hit in the knee was actually the most pivotal. It's what saved our lives because he hunches over, and when he hunches over, the follow-up round hits the buffer tube of the AR and jams it out of battery. Mind you, nobody knows that, which explains why in the video you'll watch him run up on us and proceed to use this rifle as like a bludgeoning tool on the back of Brian's head, which resulted in a traumatic brain injury and, if I remember correctly, 2 separate skull fractures. He was beating him so bad with it. But it's because when he comes around the car and he pulls the trigger, it doesn't go off. There's a live round in the chamber, but it's just seated just out of battery because of where the round had pinched the buffer tube, which pinched the bolt carrier, just slightly out of battery. Yeah. So that's crazy. The luck there is luck or divine intervention or whatever you want to call it is just outstanding.
It worked.
Yeah, whatever it was, really worked out. Which is also it's so common. I mean, statistically, cops shoot at what the threat is. I mean, people shoot at what the threat is, and the threat is not the person. The threat is the thing that's shooting at you, the gun. And so you target fixate on what the threat is, and you shoot at what you're looking at. I mean, there's tons of science behind that. A lot of times cops shoot guns or they shoot people in the hand or people shoot people in the hands. So it kind of tracks for that to have been the outcome. But I'm kind of glad. And then when I dump the mag into them, when they're laying between the car, they're fighting over the rifle. Like Brian is grabbing onto this rifle and pushing it away from his face when I come around the car. And they're literally fighting over this gun. When I come around with a new mag, and I our mags are 15 rounds, so I dumped 15 rounds into them at basically point blank range. So I guess the math tracks to we hit him 17 times before that, and this guy is still trucking. Mind you, we're shooting 9mm, but he's still trucking. So
Does this all take? And I know it's only like 45 seconds, but in your mind, is this the slowest 45 seconds ever?
Oh my God. I thought it was minutes.
Wow.
It was minutes. My dad asked me. I remember that conversation with my dad. He's like, how long? I was like, oh God, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe. I don't know. Like 45 seconds from the first gunshot to the last, I think is what it is. Like 45 or 43 or something like that. It's so fast. And mind you, I run through 3 magazines in 45 seconds, which is like,
damn,
horrible. And we carried Walther PPQs down there, and the crazy thing, it's a European gun, and people who own European guns know European guns for some reason have like these crazy long slide lock slide releases on them. And I had this horrible habit. I shoot Glocks. I shoot with a high thumbs grip. So I would always pin my slide lock down. So in that shooting, that actually happens. I run a mag 100% empty and do not know it's empty. So we come into like this face-to-face showdown in between 2 cars, and I punch out to follow up shooting. And all the audio in the video is from Brian's shoulder mic, because mine was like having audio issues, I guess, because it's from his dash camera too. I punch out, and if you listen to my audio, you can hear my gun click. And it's the worst moment in my life. And so I hear this click. I don't feel a bang. And you can watch, I muzzle dump too. So when I pull the trigger, you watch like the muzzle go down, and then you can kind of watch me drop a mag and just head for the hills. I'm running for cover to reload. And as I come back around, they're run basically a circle around Brian's car from bumper to bumper as I'm reloading, and I come around as I'm slamming that in and racking, and I see them on the ground, and I'm like, I have to end this before he shoots him in the face. Mind you, again, don't know this rifle's out of battery, but it worked out in our favor where they were at because, I've got good backdrop. I'm not worried about, hitting anybody else other than Brian, which was definitely a concern for me. So was able to essentially walk it up his left-hand side as far away from Brian as I could. And, it ends the gunfight, thankfully. But the other two people that were there, 100% compliant. One of them, they both ran off, right?
I probably
It's
would too, I mean.
it's a gun battle,
Yeah.
but they didn't run off to the point like they were gone. She was, and I didn't know this, she was hiding behind my patrol car, like in the road, like squatted down behind my patrol car. And the dude, you can see him in the video, he runs what looks like a mile, dude. I mean, that video is horrible because it's a fisheye lens. It looks like he runs like a mile away, but it's really maybe 100 yards, give or take. And he hangs out over there until this all ends. And then when I address him and I call him back, he comes right back to the scene, like Crone's out, does everything he's told to do. No ifs, ands, or buts. He was freaking out because her baby was in the back seat in that car seat, which
You found that out at that point, right? Like,
oh yeah,
after the shooting.
because she kept screaming, my baby, and I thought she was talking about him at first. So like in my mind, nobody wants to ever be there, but in my mind at this point, I'm worried my partner's been shot in the leg. I have priorities here. This guy is not my priority. Brian is my priority. So I'm trying to deal with that. And then as I'm like sort of going through this checklist of like what my priorities are, like, need to do life saving on him. He's bleeding out of his leg. We all know leg wounds can be a silent killer of people, So we're trying to sort that out. I've got pedestrians running up on scene asking me what they can do to help me. Like, it's crazy. And I give a tourniquet to this guy who runs up and I'm like, hey, do you know how to put this on somebody? And he I guess kind of sort of knew. And him and Brian get through putting this tourniquet on Brian's leg. And while I'm doing that, I didn't realize what she's shouting at me is my baby's in the car. Mind you, I had put, I don't know how many rounds through the back window of this car. Like if you look in the video in the bottom left corner of that car, there's a hole about this big where we were just throwing rounds through the back of this car. And I'm like, oh, no fucking way. So I immediately beeline to the car, yank this door open, and there's glass everywhere. There's a car seat that's got a blanket pulled over the car seat from the bottom to the top. And there's not a noise in the car. And I'm mortified for this like split second. I'm like, this, what I mean?
Yeah.
Babies cry for no reason. This baby should be crying. It's like in this split second of my like thought process is like, I'd owned the fact that I probably had hit this kid, and I pull this blanket back and this kid is just like, Dylan, like there's not a care in the world. I'm like, that was the most relieving part of that whole day for me, was knowing that we had like avoided that. And mind you, I didn't take the time to really survey the car at that point. Looking at the report after the fact, there were several bullets that could have hit that kid. They hit it was a Chevy Impala. They hit like the back speaker deck and came out of the headrest and like went up into the roof. I think one of them clipped the carry handle of the car seat. There were several bullet holes like in the headrest of the driver's side car seat that were just above this kid. I mean, horrible things that like could have gone wrong, but luckily by the grace of God or luck or whatever, didn't. But yeah, that was a horrific feeling for me when she said my baby's in the car and I looked at that car and I just see this crater in the back window. I'm like, oh my God, there's no way. There's no freaking way. So out of everything, that was the highlight of the day of like, I'm alive and I didn't just kill this 3-month-old by accident, like while trying to defend myself, my partner, and whoever else is about to show up on scene.
Right.
Because everybody's coming. that was,
Yeah.
I got on the radio and like, I knew I needed to call for backup, but I got on the radio and for some reason in the middle of this gunfight, I think to call out shots fired, which everyone does. But I also announced that he had a rifle, which for some reason, I don't know why, but like I had this, like we talk about how things felt so slow. Like I could tell you certain thoughts that went through my brain that you couldn't have had time to have these thoughts, but everything slowed down for you. But like I remember thinking, shit, there's people coming. They should probably know this is going to be a more advanced gunfight than a hand to hand, like a handgun to handgun gunfight. Like our armor's not going to stop these rifle rounds,
Yeah.
things like that. And that went through my mind of like, hey, these guys that are coming here, they're like, I truly thought I was going to die. I'm like, these guys who are going to show up here, they're going to, finish this gunfight, need to know what they're getting into. Because I truly expected it. Like I expected that to be the end for us. Like we're fighting a guy that's got a AR versus 2 handguns at close range. You're you're at such a disadvantage there.
Yeah.
So
Well, it didn't happen. So that's a
yeah,
plus.
yeah. Always got to see the bonus or the plus side in that.
So you get 14 days off. How are those 14 days?
For me, they're great. I couldn't wait to go back to work. And the reason why is crazy. So like I took my days off and my parents lived in East Tennessee. So I flew up here and spent time with them while homicide worked the investigation. I was put on admin leave. The typical, I wasn't mistreated by any means. Like they showed up, they all hung out with me. I was friends with one of the IA guys. So he'd actually been one of my supervisors. So everybody's just kind of like, we're just hanging out at the office, waiting for, drug test, all that good stuff. And I get my wife and brother come and pick me up from the office because obviously I couldn't take my patrol car home because it's got dash cam video evidence and all that good stuff in it. So they come and pick me up. And this is the start of it where I probably should have known there was a problem. I told the story in the car as best as I could remember it. Because my brother seemed like the way he talked about it, like he needed to know like that I was okay, like what happened. And me in that moment, I'm like, I'm fine. Like which should have been a red flag. Nobody should be fine after that. Taking someone's life is not anything anybody should ever hope to do. And you should never even though in my cases, there's no other option. It was total self-preservation, self-defense, but you should know there's going to be some repercussions from that eventually, mentally. On the way home, I see both of our patrol cars on a flatbed going northbound on the interstate, and we're literally paralleling my patrol car. I have a Snapchat picture of my patrol car on that flatbed.
Wow.
And I was like, that's crazy. And I remember making a joke. I had a bobblehead on my dash that was I'm a Star Wars fan. My wife had bought me a Chewbacca bobblehead and it was up on my dash. And I never looked at my car on scene. I'm like, guy probably shot the shit out of my car, right? Like, so I'm driving down the road, or my brother's driving down the road, and I'm like half leaning out the window trying to look at the front of my car to see if he had shot the bobblehead or shot my windshield or any of that. And like I had like these random concerns, like, I hope he didn't tear my stuff up. I have personal shit in that car. I get home. I remember thinking, and I said it to my brother. I walked into my apartment and turned the lights on, and I was like, damn, those are bright. Like it was the brightest lights I'd ever seen in my life. Like your senses are just through the roof. It felt okay. My brother winds up leaving, and my wife and I sit in the kitchen, and we just kind of like, we're just there, And at the time, she was pregnant, 2 months pregnant at the time. So there's like obviously a ton of emotion there. It gets to be probably I think about 1 or 2 in the morning and she's like, I can't stay awake anymore. So she goes to bed and she's like, are you coming to bed? I was like, no, nope. Cause I was afraid I'd have nightmares. I slept on the couch that night because I was so afraid to have some nightmare where I would then wake up and am like in a fight. And, you know, the last thing we ever want to do is put our hands on our spouse. And I was like, I don't want to be in that position. So I was like, I wound up sleeping on the couch. I didn't have a single nightmare about that shooting for almost 2 years,
Wow.
which was crazy. But like throughout my 14 days off, like, I mean, you and I talked, we did the original podcast where we talked about some stuff, you know, and everything was, in my mind, was good. I told my support group, my friends, my family, like, hey, if you see like changes in me, aggressive changes or anything like that, if you see me going through it, like, tell me. That way I'll get help. You know, I'll go out and I'll seek this help. I'll go talk to somebody. I do the basic go back to work stuff, come up here, hang out with my parents for a couple days. I was concerned I wouldn't be able to still shoot a gun. Like, I was afraid I could have that PTSD, like the inability to shoot a gun, like this. So they had property up here, a couple acres. We went on the property and we're up here shooting, just kind of like getting the feel of it again. My sheriff at the time, Wayne Ivey, one of the best people I've ever had the luxury of working for. That man called me almost every single day to just check on me. Just, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? How's everything going? Tell jokes, kind of just shoot the shit for, 15, 20 minutes at a time. He called me when I was up here in Tennessee and asked me, he's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, well, we're just out here shooting, And he laughs. He goes, what do you mean you're out here shooting? I said, oh, I'm up in Tennessee. Just, wanted to make sure I could still get behind a gun and not have issues. Well, it turns out he's up in Tennessee as well at that time. He meets me and my family for breakfast the following morning, pays for my whole family's breakfast. Like my parents, my wife, my sister, and my brother-in-law. And they were getting ready to release the video. I still had not seen my own video yet. I had not seen anything. They wanted me to wait for my interview before I watched the video. I hadn't seen it. Out of respect for my family, he shows it to my parents that morning. Like, hey, do you want to see it? Like, so you're not blindsided, because they're going to release it on Facebook. We were one of those agencies, super transparent with people. And he tells me, he's like, I don't want the first time you see it to be a news outlet playing this video. So he shows it to my parents there. Still won't show it to me because I was like, I want to see this video. Like, still wouldn't show it to me, but out of respect for my family, shows it to my parents at that morning, which was good. I think for my dad, it was good to see it. And I do my homicide interview on like day 13 or day 12 of my time off, and I'm like, at this point, I want to go back to work. I'm anxious to go back to work. Like, I was afraid if I stayed out of work for too long, I wouldn't be able to go back, because like that fear or that realization of like, shit, I almost died would kick in, and you'd be like, you know what? Let's go do anything else. So I was anxious to go back, and I pushed for it. I think Brevard would let me stay out longer if I really asked for it, or if I portrayed it like I needed it. But I definitely put it off like I was good because I thought I was. So I went back to work. Probably 6 months. I got married. Well, sorry, I said my wife at the time. She was my fiance at the time. Got married. My son was born on March 30th. And I took 3 months off. So during this time frame, I guess I had gone through like some really pretty crazy changes between coming back to work and the time that I took baby leave. And I didn't know I had this issue. I was very defensive. Was more aggressive. Like, I didn't want to deal with people. I didn't want to talk to people. And again, I didn't realize this. I'm going through life like it's a total normal day. My wife told me she tried to tell me several times. I don't remember it. I don't remember those conversations, but I do remember being an asshole. Like, I'll own it. I remember that. Now that I go back and look at it. What set me off what set me on the path to getting better was the last night I was at work. I was an investigator at this point. I was in general investigations, frauds, other nonsense. I would stay at work and I'd come into work at 8 a.m. and I would work crazy long hours, chasing bad guys, because that's what I knew to do. Like, that's how I knew to be okay. I'd be out till 10, 11, 12 o'clock in the morning, or 12 o'clock at night, chasing cars, chasing bad guys, putting people in jail. Then I'd come home, I'd sleep roughly 8 hours. I'd show up at my office at 9 a.m. and do it again.
Was that your
Spending no,
mechanism?
yeah, 100%. That was my coping mechanism. I had a newborn baby at home and I was non-existent, which sucks. Like, wish I could roll the clock back and fix that, but can't. So almost lost my marriage during that time, but she is an absolute trooper and stuck it out and never. She told me straight up. We talked recently about it. She told me straight up. There was a period of time she thought about leaving because I was unlivable at certain points in time. Not aggressive, like violent towards her. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to do anything with anybody. I'd come home, I'd go to bed, I'd get up, I'd do it again. Or I'd come home, I'd sit on the couch, watch TV, and like to disconnect from the world because in my mind the world sucked. So it's kind of one of those things. One of my best friends at work realized what I was doing, and my last night at work, I'm getting ready to go home, and him and I are talking in a parking lot of our precinct, and Andrew proceeds to go off on me. Tough love type nonsense, and he's like, because I wasn't going to take 3 months of baby leave. I was entitled to it, but I wasn't going to take it. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably take a month or two, and I'll come back. And he like goes off me. He's like, you need to take all 3 months. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. Like, I'm fine. And he proceeds to sell me out about how I'm not fine. And he's like, you're not okay. You're an asshole to everybody. You're defensive all the time. You need to go talk to somebody, and you need to sort this out. He's like, because you can't keep doing this to people. So I take those 3 months. I take 2.5 of those 3 months. Leave time was kind of running out near the end. So I take 2.5 of those 3 months, and still didn't really get better. Did a little bit, but not really. We had, a little bit of an improvement, but for the most part, I was still coping with just diving into work hardcore. I got the lucky strike of where I wanted to be. I got to work part-time on violent crimes task force out here, chasing drug dealers again. So I would work a whole shift in investigations and general assignment, and then I'd go work the sheriff's high intensity target list, like for another 6 or so hours after I just worked 9 hours, and then I come home and I'd sleep, and I'm back to work again. So that sucked for marriage.
Was that a way that your coping mechanism was definitely embracing the work aspect, but was isolation also another way that you were coping, where you just not wanting to talk about? And was it that you just didn't want to talk about the incident, or what was, like, do you even remember, like, what was the reason
So I
you were pulling
don't
back?
really remember. I think so one of my hobbies, like my family's tech, so we play video games. So like most of the time that I spend time with my brother and stuff before, now we do other things, but before, like one of the things we would do a lot of is we just sit and play video games. That was how him and I would connect. So I would come home and it would disassociate from the world. Like I didn't have to think about the stress. I didn't have to think about anything going on. I just come home, play video games, or come home, watch TV, or things like that. I think it was just a way to get away from like having to think about the real world aspect of it. And when I'm at work, I'm busy. I don't have time to think about stuff.
Yep.
Like you're constantly doing something, whether it's running your investigation or it's, trying to keep up with your caseload or out here doing something proactive. You're always busy. You're never like, there's no downtime. So there's no time to think about it. So I think that was more so my coping mechanism, was what a lot of us do. We go to work.
Yep.
You know, being like overtaken by that, and then like this like just disassociating from life at home, which is a lot of the reason why we actually opted for this move to Tennessee. This is kind of what started that process for us.
Did you ever go talk to anyone about it?
I did after
Okay.
I moved.
Oh,
So a year and a half later. um,
so like I have a buddy that's I think maybe we even
yeah.
talked on the original one that I offered the opportunity for you to talk to him, but
Yeah.
like he's a psychologist and like I know that he can't see me because of conflict of interest, but he's always been a guy that when I need to talk to someone, he sits there and listens and doesn't judge and just lets me get it out of my mind, and then we have an understanding. Like if he ever says something to the effect of like, "Yo, I think you need to go talk to someone," then I know that like I'm beyond the point of where me just getting it out of my brain is the issue.
Yeah.
And I think that in a lot of scenarios, it could be your spouse or it could be a best friend. Like it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a doctor, but I feel like
Yeah.
the more you replay it in your brain and it's not coming out of your mouth, the more you're reliving it on your own, and you just continue to isolate yourself. And that's just me from an outsider, to kind of seeing a lot of these
Yeah.
and talking to guys and girls involved in these situations. It becomes where it's self isolation, and then I dive head first into something. A lot of times it's work, sometimes it's alcohol or other substances. So, and then no one at work really realizes it because you're so dedicated at work. You're like, well, his life must be good because he's so dedicated here. Like
Yeah.
everything's fine. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy how that works.
I had actually made myself a promise. The night, it was the night before, a couple nights before. I'm not a big drinker at all, but I'll drink some scotch every now and then, smoke a cigar, or me and the wife will drink a bottle of wine. There was a bottle of wine in our fridge that we were planning. Sorry, my dog's just coming over here to like assault me right now. We we'd planned to drink this bottle of wine. Um, and then when we found out she was pregnant, I was like, well, guess I'm gonna drink this bottle of wine. Like kind of just being a smart ass about it. But so I made myself a promise that at least until I went back to work, I would not have a drink. Like period. Because I was afraid of starting like a coping mechanism of drinking. So and that went on for months, that I didn't have a single drink for months. I'll social drink, like we'll go to a bar with some friends, I'll have a beer or two. Nothing like crazy. But I totally shut that down. I was like, I won't do that, because what you're talking about, like you wind up almost with a
An addiction off of it.
that's your, it starts out as like, oh, it's just a drink, or it becomes like a cope mechanism, then an addiction, and that's a path I don't ever want to go down. But yeah, so I had my kid, but we didn't really have like a huge support group down there because my parents lived up here. My wife's parents lived down in Florida, but they were like a couple hours from us. So they weren't like close enough for us to regularly see them or any of that. And I didn't have any nieces, nephews. He didn't have any. I've got one kid. He didn't have any brothers or, any siblings to hang out with. But my sister had a baby, and she had one on the way. So we're like, we talked about it several times. We opted, let's move up here to Tennessee, get him around people his age, and then um the financial stuff. Living in Florida, dude, you don't make enough money as a cop. It just is what it is. The financials worked out for us. There was a lot of reasons why we thought, hey, this is probably a good idea. But we got up here, and what was good about it was it got me around my dad more. And with him being from law enforcement and stuff, we were able to talk more about what was going on with me. And years ago, he had an incident at work where, like a pursuit it wasn't really a pursuit, like it started as a pursuit, he canceled it like immediately, whatever, and the guy kept fleeing, and the guy wound up actually T-boning a car and killing a teenage girl in the car. He has lived with that for his entire life. He went and got later on in life went and saw a therapist about it. Went and saw somebody for it, and him and I talked, and he told me repeatedly, he's like, hey, you you should go talk to somebody. He's like, you should go talk to somebody. So I did. That started. I went and saw a lady in Knoxville, Tennessee. She's super cool person. I went and started this thing they call EMDR therapy, and it's like rapid eye movement. It's a way to kind of jumpstart the healing process of your brain again. I did that for a couple months, and really good. It just it's not so much about talking about your problems as much as it's about teaching you techniques to cope with the problems, ways to work through those problems. So like my big issues, I would sit in bed at night and like I don't have nightmares. I don't have dreams really at all. It's like weird.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Now, if I take like melatonin or something, oh Jesus Christ, I'll dream all night long. But so I could lay there in bed for hours, and I would have like these existential crisis like thoughts that would just go through my brain of like, I almost died. What would happen if I died? Like life thereafter. You start going through all these crazy things, and I say it sounds crazy to like the normal person who's probably never been there. It sounds crazy to them, like I'm sure, but my inner monologue would just go through these crazy rabbit holes, and the anxiety would build up, and I'd sit there in bed and I would just like couldn't sleep. So part of the EMDR therapy is like, again, teaching you different coping mechanisms to kind of get yourself back out of these moments, and then like throughout the time lower the number of moments like that you'll have. So that went on for a couple months, and it helped out a lot. There was points in time where we would go to like populated events and stuff where I couldn't carry a gun, and that was uncomfortable for me. I don't typically leave my house without a gun. I'm going to be super honest about that. I was that way before my shooting. I'm pro Second Amendment, and I'm not going to rely on somebody else to save me if shit goes bad. But I couldn't leave my house without a gun. If we were leaving the house without a gun and I realized I didn't have one, we were going back and getting one. Like I was like, nope, not doing it. Over time that became less and less. Now if I just the other day I left the house and we were driving down the road, and my wife, I'm like, shit, I left my gun. And she's like, do you want to go back? I'm like, no, it's not a big deal. We'll just, thank God nothing bad happened, right? That's the complacency in life. But at the same time, I don't feel like I have to always be in this mode anymore. Like,
that's great.
Theme parks were hard. We went to Universal Studios pretty shortly after my shooting, and it was rough. It was rough. And we were inside of a gift shop at one point, and I was just crowded by people. And short of having a full-on breakdown, I looked at my wife, I'm like, I have to leave. I've got to go. And I walked out of the store and like out of this gift shop thing, and we were on our way out of the park anyways at that point. But I was like, she's like, you all right? I said, nope, I'm going home. I'm going home. Like I went straight to the car and got in the car. I was like, I can't. Like I was walking a fine line of having a mental breakdown. And I don't really know why that one was a thing, because like it didn't correlate to my shooting at all. It was just I'm in a crowd of people that I don't know. I'm unarmed. I'm like in this weird like vibe of just I don't know. It was weird.
It's probably like, you're around a bunch of people you don't know, a bunch
Yeah.
of people at this point, and now you don't have any way in your own mind to defend yourself if something was to happen. Probably don't have a very tactical way of hiding your family and all these other responsibilities. I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons, and it makes sense to me.
Yeah. I think the other crazy incident for me where like I had like, again, this was leading into the move to Tennessee. Like this is right before the move, when I started to really realize there was a problem. We went to a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert in downtown Orlando. And this is such a horrible placement. It was at the Camping World Stadium. So anybody who wants to pull up a map can figure this out. There's not many parking garages very close there. You're like 6 or so blocks away. And everybody who knows anything about Orlando, it's a violent place. There's a lot of violent crime. It is what it is. It's also a really cool place too. Like, don't get me wrong, I spent a lot of my life there, but I had to walk probably somewhere between 6 or 10 blocks unarmed at night through not some of the best places in downtown Orlando to get to Camping World Stadium. And like, there were people that were approaching me and my wife while we're walking towards Camping World Stadium, like trying to bum money off us, trying to sell us dope. And I'm like, this is horrible. Like, why did I choose to do this? And I'm a huge Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. And this is like probably one of the coolest concerts I've ever been to. Like, it was just a jam session with them. Like, they, you know, in their older age, they're if you ever get the opportunity to go, and I don't know if you're a fan, but if you are, you get the opportunity to go, they're pretty cool in their later years. But so we're like sitting there and make it through most of the concert before like stuff starts setting in again. I'm like, oh, here we are in this big ass crowd of people. And I can't I'm running out of ways to cope. So we wind up making it through the whole concert, but it was difficult. And then on the way back to the car, I was like, again, stupid uncomfortable, like just existential crisis levels of uncomfortable. So it's things like that. Like that was when I really knew I had a problem. But
Now everything's good. How long you been in Tennessee for?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, right about 2 years. Yeah, no, it's great, dude. Now that I've talked to somebody, and I don't still go see this person. But after a couple months, I kind of like started getting a lot better. There were times where I didn't have like a great connection for probably the first year and a half that my son was around, and that I regret that more than anything. But now that I'm like more open back up, like psychologically and emotionally, you know, he's like my favorite person. He's always been my favorite person in the world, but he's like, now it's different, you know.
Yeah.
Now I love being around people again, and so being around him's awesome. But we go out and we do all kinds of stuff. We go to theme parks, you know, we go do, you know, hikes, or we go out and we don't have this worry of like, you know, my world is falling apart. And I'm less like on edge. Like, I don't feel like I have to always be hyper vigilant 24 hours a day, because that wears you out. I don't like, even in law enforcement, that wears you out. Like, you come home from work and you're just tired because you've spent the whole day being hyper vigilant. But imagine that plus everywhere you go in your life, you're stuck in this like hyper vigilant mode 24 hours a day. And that's pretty much how I felt.
It
was rough.
I'm happy for you, man. You seem like you're a lot more relaxed and a lot better, man. And not that you were the last time we had one of these, but you know, even throughout time of us having an acquaintance or friendship, however you want to word it. Yeah, dude, you do definitely seem more relaxed up there in Tennessee than you were.
Yeah. Oh my God. And it's beautiful. Like, that's the other crazy part is I'm so used to Florida. It's hot. It's flat. There's not a whole lot going on. Hold that thought. My dog is like killing me trying to get outside. But yeah, so like, it's beautiful up here. I mean, I'm so used to hot, flat, and the beach. But up here, you know, we've got mountains, we've got different seasons. Yeah, it's not just one season anymore. Where it's like, you know, you actually get like the change of, you know, colors and the leaves and things. You've gotten see a lot of that stuff, which is cool. So it's just a different world. I spent 30 years in Florida, so now I'm like experiencing something different. So it's always cool. I hate the snow at this point. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir, I'm sure, but I hate the snow.
Yeah, you guys don't get that much compared to us up here. So like,
no, ours typically melts like day by day. So like, you'll get like a flurry of it and it'll be gone by like the middle of the next day. But my first year here, we had a snowstorm that the snow stayed on the ground for over a week straight, and like the road stayed frozen for like days on end. And that was my first ever experience driving in snow.
That's
and I'm at work driving in snow in like Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and sliding all over the road. That was a total nightmare. But
I wish I was a mouse in your pocket watching you drive the first time.
I got my car stuck. I got my car stuck actually. I was going to a call, and so Total comedy relief on this one. Going to call, this lady had crashed her truck going up to their cabin. She's driving uphill. And mind you, I know black ice exists, but nobody had really spent the time, and I was so ignorant. Nobody had really spent the time to like explain to me, like, hey, snow on roadway during the day means ice underneath. Probably a good clue. Didn't know that. So I was like, oh, if there's snow, then it should be fine, right? Like, we should be all right. So I get to where the road actually starts to like a very slight incline. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna stop and I'll get out, and I'm like probably, I don't know, 300 yards to this truck. I'll hike up here to this truck real quick and make sure they're okay. It turns out they're not in the truck. They'd hiked all the way to their cabin. So, but she, like, the call was like talking about having like a broken ankle or something like that. So I was like, I have this lady back. So I wound up walking probably a quarter of a mile back to her cabin to like check on this person, because there's no ambulance that's going to get up here. Like, this incline got pretty gnarly. There's nobody coming up here to get them, at least not easily. So I was like, hey, go up here and make my check anyways. So I walk all the way back down to my car, and I get in my car and I put it in drive, and I go to like turn into this driveway, and then I go to back out. And as I'm backing back out, my car just starts sliding sideways. Again, not like a crazy incline, but right off the nose of my car is like this dip down probably, I don't know, maybe 15 feet, like enough that it would probably hurt. So I'm like freaking out. The only thing I know to do is pump the brakes on your car and like try to get it. Luckily, like, my car stops at one point, like after a couple like feet of sliding. I throw the shit in park. I throw the parking brake on. I get out of my car. I'm like, send it, brother. If it slides, it's going on its own. I didn't know how to get myself out of this predicament. So I call my sergeant. I'm like, buddy, I'm stuck. What do I do? And he goes, well, send me a picture of what you got. So I sent him a picture of my car on the road. Like, and to me, this wasn't a steep incline, but to him, when I showed him a picture, he's like, you're an idiot. Why'd you drive up there? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know that. So next thing I know, we have one of our tow companies that works really well with us come out there, and this guy's like throwing salt in the road to like try and break down so it's to help me get out. And we've got my car in like riding the brakes downhill to try and get out of this predicament I've gotten myself in. It was the most nerve-wracking moment of my career. I was like, I'm gonna drive this car into a ditch. I'm gonna slide this car into a ditch in a minute. Yeah, it was horrible. If I ever drive in snow again, which luckily, again, like I said, the stuff melts so fast here that it's not normally a problem. But the next storm like that, I swear to God,
You're gonna walk.
Yeah, I'm walking everywhere. I'm walking to my calls. At least I know now, right? Like, any incline and snow on the road, I'm out.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, it was so awkward not knowing anything about it. And I've driven in hurricanes, by the way.
I have not.
I worked in Florida, beachside, when a hurricane hit, and I drove a Ford Taurus in a hurricane to go get somebody off a relief bridge, which, by the way, was sketchy as hell too. But so, like, I'm used to crazy stuff like that, but a little bit of snow ruined my world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, less than 5 inches of snow, my world is upside down.
So we've been at this for almost 2 hours, man, and
Yeah,
I usually try to keep it about an hour. But we end every podcast with one question, man. So I'm gonna go for that. We teach for Justice Academy. So what is your definition of justice?
In my opinion, is like doing this job we do right, but going above and beyond to do it the right way. Right? Like you and I talked about, we're always out here to chase the bad guy, but you can't be the bad guy in that same side and violate people's rights. Like, you making sure you're doing this the right way, making sure you hold people accountable, but don't lose yourself at the same side of doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. That's a good one. We get a lot of them that are kind of like that, like
Yeah.
justice on both sides. Like doing the right thing for the right cause, or society puts these rules in place that even if we're kind of empathetic and understanding, you still broke the law and you got to go with us. So I like it, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I wouldn't mind having you on again, man. If you're willing to even talk maybe a little bit more about maybe in the future about what you could have done better so you didn't go down that avenue of being a jerk for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always down for an invite. It's always fun hanging out and talking. So
Awesome, man.
well, I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
I know, yeah, for sure. We'll do it again. But I appreciate this time, and yeah, if you need anything, let me know.
Yeah. Thanks. You too.
Pleasure, bro.